and baby down in my soul. You, baby, you can't take it no more. No, I know I'm walking out that door the way you treated me too many times before. I know I gotta keep you by my side today I die. 'Cause baby, ecstasy is in my hand. Oh, when I'm holding yours in mine and walking in the sand. Oh, baby, you know it's fine. Oh, now you done and piss me off. You ain't done something you shouldn't have done. Baby, I'm mad. I'm going on. Oh, I'm going on.
So, I guess it's time. I didn't know my stupid head was going to be on the screen. But I suppose I could deal with that. Or I could just go like that. Okay, no. I suppose it's time to get off of Twitter. And wind down from my epic silly escapade, which I very thoroughly enjoyed. So Rick Wilson had retweeted just a stupid fucking comment that I made. He was getting trolled by some vegan don't eat cows thing, and you know, he had replied or retweeted and quoted and said that cows are delicious, or they have meat, and that's delicious, or whatever. And my reply was, well, let's see here. I guess I could probably pull it up. Because it was far too much fun. Oh, I cracked up so many people and pissed off so many people. Alright, where are you? So, one could argue that cows have evolved through species adaptation to ensure their survival by providing another species with food and materials, much the same way a clownfish hosts an anemone, and the anemone eats its fry as they hatch. Wild cows would otherwise be extinct. Yeah. Seems a couple people didn't manage to take my meaning on that. Started telling me about how people have captured cows and they've devolved into blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so you acknowledge that cows are a captive, separate species that cannot survive in the wild. Thank you for conceding the point. And they continued to explain to me that no, it's actually, they've been tested and there's the same genetic traits as mental retardation. Okay. So we release them all into the wild and then they all die, right? Again, thank you for conceding the point that cows that we keep for food are in fact a species that depends on humans for survival. Now, I had just said it as a fucking joke. But to me, funny because it's true. Okay? And for somebody to sit there and tell me that actually cows can run quite fast, so I'm like, first of all, if you were gonna make a credible argument against me, you wouldn't use the word quite fast. You would cite to me specific numbers. But since you can't, please allow me to retort. Because I can simply estimate what you would research as to be the accurate speed of a fucking running cow simply by memory, IQ, and estimation. 13 to 15 miles an hour. Okay? Tops. For domestic American cows. Now, the African species of cattle, about 21 miles an hour. That's a semi-domesticated species of cattle. And I don't know the name of it or anything, but I could tell you some other fucking impressive stories about what I know about that shit. I'm gonna move on. I was there before entire bloodlines of both cattle and human even existed, so but I'm just, anyways, I don't share these human insecurities about intellectual reasoning, because I don't really care, just don't. It's fucking Twitter. Why are you following people that you disagree with to begin with? You're following people just so you can I follow people who I want to hear what they have to say. I don't follow people who I don't want to hear what they have to say. If you follow people who you don't want to hear what they have to say, you're a troll. Your only existence is in trolling. You're basically the most worthless fucking form of human being on the planet. So the fact that you think you could competently argue any point with anyone ever is just delusional. You can take my word for it, because I'm a guy on YouTube who thinks he's Jesus. That joke never gets old to me. It really never gets old. Anyway, so let's see here. I'm trying to figure out how do I message. Alright, so Strider, Conway, and Bellucci. Down and over there. That work? Let me know. Yeah, let me know if that worked. So I just sent you a message that should go to the email that you provided on Patreon. Joey should be asleep right now. He's East Coast. East Coast. West Coast. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. So anyway. Then I got somebody coming to Steve Bannon's defense. And it's really fascinating. Really, genuinely, truly fucking fascinating. Gonna tell me, but Steve Bannon's a Catholic. Really? That's your response? Steve Bannon is a Catholic. To my, this is literally the sentence that was said in response. What's up, Mr. Conway? I take it did you just get the email that I sent? In response to this thing here. This woman, allegedly a woman, you know, had the photo of a girl's face, but you never fucking know. Could be Moses Yeltsin for all I know. Steve Bannon's a Catholic. Oh, saw it on Twitter. Well, that's good. So at least I know there's a point in doing that. Did you see the tirade that Rick Wilson retweeted earlier, or the retweet that turned into a tirade earlier? Because it wound up somebody fucking tagged Lost Begotten in there. I wasn't even trying to get him to. So it probably showed up on the Lost Begottens. I don't know. None of the retweets. But yeah, it's all over the Easy Reapers thing. So I'd reply to this woman here. That label is as pointless as your statement. Feel free to elaborate, and I will do my best to demonstrate what it means to be an ancient soul. I'm gonna be the man baby. There we go. So I can smoke. Shh. Oh, that's kind of obvious though. So, how's it going? Anyway, I was basically just reflecting after all of that, other than just kind of soaking in the sheer enjoyment of it. And well, let me get the fan turned off so there's not too much droning noise in the background. As I had mentioned on the thing, it seems to me that most of the ignorance of the hypocritic zombie-like masses that support Donald Trump, these evangelicals and Trumpists, their basic error, their fundamental error, the reason why they just fail to see so many things that they do wrong. It's just the most ironic of things. It's just the most ironic of things, you see. They have failed to understand the difference between the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. And the reason why this is ironic is because a lot of them hate Jews. So here's the deal. Okay, let me just break this down for you. If you don't accept the New Covenant, if you don't acknowledge the New Covenant, if you don't understand the difference between the Old and New Covenant, you're not following the words of Christ, see. The words of Christ, if you don't understand this concept to begin with, there's basically nothing but contradiction in the Bible. If you just don't understand this basic concept, you can sit there and look at the words of Christ, and you can look at the words of the Old Testament, and you can get them to contradict each other over and over again. Because, well, the Old Testament was kind of judgy. You know? Kind of judgy. Just a little bit on the judgy side. A little bit on the harsh punishment side. Okay? And the baby Jesus, not so much. Not so much. He actually, even in addition to saying many things that indicated you should be forgiving and compassionate of other people, he said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged yourselves." And this is one of those things that people just don't seem to get. But what's more is that in doing so, they've basically become converts to Judaism while being anti-Semitic. And if that's not fucking ironic, I don't know what it is. And if you're not laughing at that, if that's not funny, I don't think you're getting it. And I think you should really try to open up your mind to the concept if you're at this point watching this video and sneering at me and thinking you somehow comprehend the way that I think. Oh, you just could not possibly do so. Okay? So can you comprehend the way, like, Einstein or Stephen Hawking thinks? No, you can't. It's very simple to understand why. For the same reason a chicken cannot understand an orca, or an orangutan cannot understand a politician. Well, no, that's a bad example. It's about IQ gap. Plain and simple. Okay? And more than that, in my particular case, it's about specialization. Okay, so the way you would go to Neil deGrasse Tyson for something regarding astrophysics, now that Hawking's dead, you should go to me for things of historical and spiritual and tactical and strategic nature. But then again, I'm just not interested in astrology. That shit's far away, doesn't mean much here, okay? It's just that simple. We got our own fucking problems. We are not ready to form the Federation, Warp 9.3. But we're not even, like, mature enough on a basic level. I mean, human beings, most of them don't even reach maturity within the potential of the current level of the species. I mean, there are people that live their entire lives just on the level of a fucking Kardashian fan. And, okay, you must understand that if you are a very intelligent person, there is, there's you, and then there's the Kardashian fan, and then equidistant to that is a fucking monkey, and then there's, like, equidistant to that is a snail, okay? But even if you're a very intelligent person, when it comes to someone who has broken records on their IQ test and achieved genius specialization in one field, okay, the way you feel about somebody who just can't get enough of the Kardashians, that's pretty much how I observe most of these pseudo-intellectuals on fucking Twitter. There's a different level of thinking that opens up, and I'm sorry, but I'm really wanting to eat my words using Neil deGrasse Tyson, because Neil deGrasse Tyson to me is a savant with an IQ of probably around 163, but he's no super genius. His main gift is simply verbal memorization. He's very good at reading something and then recounting it. But anyways, to me, IQ is a matter of rate of observation. Okay, the rate at which you can observe things. It's just that simple. You see, a slug cannot observe things at the rate of an orangutan. An orangutan cannot observe things at the rate of a Kardashian fan. And a Kardashian fan cannot observe things at the rate of a biologist or a chemist. Okay? But a biologist or a chemist cannot observe things at the rate of an intelligence officer. So you have to understand what IQ means, what genius means. And personally, I think that just to encourage progress in society and avoid, I don't know, authority given to stupid people, I think people with IQs above 157 should have like some sort of license given to them, like from childhood, okay? And like, you can have it taken away if you like smoke crack and run over a child or something, like. This is all satire. I don't know if you fucking realize this. This is all just supposed to be funny, okay? Am I actually a record-breaking super genius? Yes. Do I know how stupid I sound right now? Of course. Do I care? No. Because there actually is a greater point, and it's just not about arrogance. See, I would much prefer to be a fucking moron. Oh, the bliss that would provide me. But I have this burden of knowing things. The same way if you saw a bunch of domesticated animals that had escaped, and they were just, kind of like that metaphor with the ducks. They got taught in reality a while back. Oh, they just kept on doing the same fucking thing every day, and you're just helpless to communicate to these ducks. No, you need to do this, because you keep doing that, and you're dying. And the ducks are just like, quack, 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 quack. That's how I feel about humans, okay? I'm watching Stargate. I mean, not Stargate, Star Trek. Next Generation. I don't know why this is sitting there like that. That's really weird. I'm just going to put it back up there. Watching Stargate The Next Generation. And there's this episode where they go and visit this planet where they're observing the the proto-Vulcan species. That's like a pre-industrial proto-Vulcan society of humanoids similar to Vulcans. I love Star Trek. It might actually make me want the world to be round again sometime soon, in a healthy way. It's like building a little urge inside me. Anyway. So, this is the episode, if you can't remember it yet, it's the one where they're like, it's the Picard! We must obey the Picard! We must do as the Picard commands! And they worship Jean-Luc Picard. And it's fucking, it's hilarious and painful all at the same time. But, it was painful for me, for a reason I suppose that it's not painful for most people that watch it. I suppose most people that watch it don't have that strong of spiritual convictions to realize nobody's really that stupid without outside guidance. And that episode was really made in ignorance of what it takes to cause idiocracy, religious idiocracy. Despite what the common consensus is. Actually, people don't just come up with the idea that they know what God thinks and should kill other people. Did you know that? Because it really takes a pretty fucking stupid person not to know that. But that's what pseudo-intellectuals that enjoy watching Bill Maher and Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these self-righteous fucking liberal Nazis, basically, they're no better than Trumpists at all. No better. They're the exact same fucking equidistant side of the goddamn opposite coin. Or the opposite equidistant side of the same coin. Yeah, whatever. I had to go throwing in the equidistant concept in there, fucking up my line of speech. You see, first of all, it's not just as simple as those people who act like that aren't really Christians. Because I can understand the further counter-argument to that. Yeah, and I'm not even going to bother going there. The thing is, there are people who intentionally bullshit and use other people and fill them with facts to turn them against each other. And that right there has absolutely nothing to do with religion, whether properly interpreted or not, because it applies to any society, culture, fucking soccer team, or sewing group. Okay? And that, right there, just proved 100% that I, a Christian, am smarter than any atheist. Any atheist. Because every single fucking atheist failed to realize that right there. I guarantee it. Within 100% accuracy. Because that, in a nutshell, is the basis of justification for becoming just a little angry at God person. Really winds up what it comes down to. They're not angry at people. They're not angry at circumstance. They're not even angry at themselves. They're not angry at their parents. No. They actually misunderstand the world so much and are so blinded by their religion of atheism that they have actually built their perception on reality itself out of anger at God. Yes, I'm still talking about atheists here. Now, just for the record, if you wonder why I know things like this and how I will continue to justify them further by flawless logic, that's because there really isn't a human being on this planet now or that ever existed that I could not simply write out the entire code for their personality, spiritual beliefs, and thought patterns. I can program people, dearie. I have always been able to simply just imprint a little piece of someone into another little universe and predict whatever they will do in the future. Because I can understand other people that well. The friends that I have, what they know me for is understanding them better than they know themselves. It's just a thing that I do. It's the type of genius that I am. Like I said, there's different types of genius. I'm not an astrophysicist, not a particle physicist. I'm not, you know, sorry, I was going through a bunch of different names and stuff like that, but most of them are real dumbasses, and you consider them geniuses, but I don't want to get into it. Except for maybe Sigmund Freud. Like, really? Really? Just fucking moron. And, you know, while I'm sounding like the guy from A Princess Bride, Aristotle and Socrates were fucking morons too. Cheers. But then again, yes, it's correct to say that I knew both of them. One a little better than the other, I must say. But then again, I reserve the right to call myself a moron, even as I take this drink. Now that, oh, the fucking comedy that was hidden in layers underneath that shit. Oh, it's truly priceless. It's literally mostly dead people that are gonna laugh at that. I wonder how AdSense pays out on them. So, let's see here. Where was I going? I believe I had promised some flawless logic as soon as I remember what it was going to be about. One thing I must say is that the older I get, the less I really give a shit enough to even fucking pay attention to what I'm saying. No, I've decided I'm more amused about this now. Let's talk about that instead. And whereas, you know, previously on the Lost Begotten channel, I could make a long tangent and get right back to it. I think lately I've just been broadcasting too late at night and been too fucking tired. So, Mr. Conway, if it's still sticking in your mind, I will try to proceed with the flawless logic extrapolation as soon as you can just fucking jog my memory of what it was. I'm sure it'll come back to me. But otherwise, I'll move on and maybe we'll just get back to it on accident. Let's see here. I'll put some pictures up. Not there. See, an atheist, like a Trumpist, are both the type of people who, when unable to argue a point, people mock someone for a spelling error. If I mock someone for a spelling error, it comes at the end of a nuanced argument in the form of an "oh, by the way." Just as a little intentionally annoying mic drop. As opposed to I don't actually have anything fucking intelligent to say, so I'm just going to focus on this one thing you did wrong, and actually, I'm going to be so focused on this one little thing I can judge about you, I'm not even going to notice the vast intellectual failing I just experienced by failing to answer your profound point. Because after all, I don't believe God exists. And I think I've jogged my own memory and remembered what I was going to say earlier. Which means that the fucking photo can wait, can it? Okay. Where is it then? Is anybody else here? I don't know whether you're 1 or 0 people. It's like fluctuating. I don't know if you're having a hard time maintaining a stream. So, damn it, I almost had it. I really am fucking tired. God damn, more coffee. More coffee. I'm gonna give myself that longer. I guess I'll just go back into comparing the atheist and the Trumpist. I should remember that exact... Oh, there was just like one little exact train of thought that I had in mind. Damn it. I hate it when I do that. So, an atheist and a Trumpist, in a nutshell. What's important is how they're made. And this gets back to what I was saying much earlier, was that religious people, or spiritual people, people who are aware of God, and it's just that simple, and they actually understand the real God, what he really is, that he actually comes here and speaks for himself and doesn't need some asshole to speak for him. Both the atheist and the Trumpist completely disregard this concept. They have no idea it's even real. They have no actual faith in what they believe or what anybody else believes. Their entire worldview is based on fear. And what I was getting to earlier, the exact train of thought. There's a reason why it would be something that would be attacked and hidden from my mind. Okay. It's the same reason why it would be attacked and hidden from an atheist mind. And yes, I'm saying the word attacked. I'm talking about demons. Something you may not believe in because you failed to properly observe reality. Now, I can simply say this, that what a demon is a manifestation. And that's the only real aspect of it that you need to understand. Because what's important is how it manifests. It manifests as the result of a series of neurochemical impulses that combine in a particular pattern form to make you disregard an obvious truth in order to make you to continue down an illogical emotional path. Okay? That's what a demon is. Okay, now if I can prove to you, the atheist, the flawless, rational thinker, right, that you have demons, maybe you wouldn't be laughing at people for believing in spirituality. Because on a Star Trek note, what is the definition of consciousness? How far down the food chain, how far down the evolutionary ladder do you have to get before something is not an independent life form? Is there not bacteria and other life forms that are in your body, in my body right now, that are part of my life form? How conscious, how sentient are they? How much independence do they have? Well, if a series of neurological chemicals and impulses can form a distinct pattern with an intent that has purpose, could that series of neurological impulses, the vibrational, energy-based entity that could hypothetically form, could that be a life form? Could that have sentience? Could that be self-aware in any way? Could it want to survive? If it didn't want to survive, why would it be trying to sap the energy from humans? Oh, is that something I can prove? Of course. In observing the pattern, the overall pattern that such series of neurological impulses take, demons take, in observing the behavioral pattern of these things, that is, what types of things that they hide from you, what types of effects do they have on your life and society? Is there the appearance of a plan? If yes, then one can presume sentience, can you not? Otherwise, it leaves open the question of robotic programming? Perhaps some sort of electronic device that's jamming all of our brains at once? This is possible, I agree. But wouldn't you agree that that's equally as silly? And therefore equally as plausible? Because the fact of the matter is, there is no other explanation for the intentional actions and the constructed overall strategic purpose that you find commonly the result of demon possession. And demon possession like religions, like spiritual beliefs that can't just automatically corrupt themselves. Oh, I'm having too complicated a fucking thoughts to find words to keep up with this point. You can't sit there and take the idea that's false and consider it true and continuing to make your own arguments about reality. And that's what the atheist does in this situation. I think I just hurt my brain. I literally started thinking at too fast of a pace to fucking keep up with. And then it just all got shot to shit again. Complicated spiritual, intellectual issues tend to have a very increased likelihood of giving me that problem. And you notice that? Again, that's another proof of the whole fucking pattern existing. And I always have to use not like just force of thought. I have to gather spiritual strength in order to get those thoughts back whenever that happens. Which is difficult to do on a fucking live camera when you're sitting there knowing that people that you don't even know could be fucking staring at you. People that aren't even registering could be staring at you. There could be fucking like voodoo witch doctors in Mongolia with like me on a big screen all chanting some weird evil shit at my face right now. And I wouldn't know. But that's creepy, so I'm So anyways, there's a specific train of neurological impulses that I'm trying to, oh yes, the anger at God thing. The one that you don't even see. Yeah, I'm going to have to get back to that. Because that was a very large thought. I had to power down my fucking cerebellum for a few minutes. It was overheating. So, just some more random comparisons. After I cough. So, anyway, I've learned to spell Dingo. It's D-I-N-G-O. Dingo. Stop. Fucking stop. Just fucking stop. I've learned to spell in English. And in two distinctly different ways in this lifetime. One in New Zealand and one in America. And I've also learned phonetic alphabet, IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, and studied other languages. But I've also written in languages very similar to modern English in previous lifetimes. And I've frankly always been, in this lifetime, a little bit dyslexic. And I've always had to force my way through reading in ways other than most people probably read. Early on, it was basically through memorizing the shapes of words. And once I reawoke, actually, I had a completely different understanding of language. Rather bizarre to adapt to. I immediately shifted from being very effective at spell checking via shapes of word to actually being much less able to spell in a specific modern or regional format and stick to it while typing. Case in point is anything that ends with full. Since when did that have one L? I remember waking up in 2011 and just like, I knew, but I was mad about it. And that's hilarious. But when you think about it, something isn't very full if you take one of the fucking L's off of it, is it? It's very pessimistic, half full kind of full. As opposed to, magically implies that you can't do anything magically without an ally. There's an extra L. It's proper. I agree with that L, but it allowed me to make a mild Final Fantasy type joke. I don't know. Because, when you do magic with an ally, it increases your overdrive rate and the spell's more powerful. Whatever. Anyways. Damn it. This whole TV needing to be turned on thing doesn't help me keep a fucking train of thought. If I turn the TV off, it'll take forever to turn back on. It just doesn't fucking... I don't know what the fuck's wrong with the thing. It's got a little red light that turns blue when it turns on, and you hit the power button and the little red light turns off. And then a completely indefinite amount of time, from 1 second to 5 minutes, sometimes more, just a fucking random fucking amount of time, then the red button comes back on. Then you can press the power button, and maybe it'll turn blue, maybe it'll power on, but chances are it fucking won't, and you'll have to just wait all over again for it to turn red again, then you can try to turn the TV on again. So that's why the TV is sitting there on mute right now. And we'll sit there until tomorrow. The TV, we just basically fucking keep it on so we don't have to turn it back on. It's fascinating. And, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Anyways. So an atheist They might make fun of me for my spelling. Does that make you smarter than me? Does that make you more capable of perceiving? There is not a single atheist who saw the connection between Russian propaganda and right-wing hysteria. Just like there isn't a single atheist who sees the connection between Russian propaganda and atheism. Oh, is that a willful blind eye? I don't think that counts as a demon. Because that's fucking history you should know. It's not just an opinion. It's an actual fact that Lenin and Stalin sought to promote atheism in order to destroy the morale of the West. And then it became a crucial part of their divide and conquer strategy to do so. Now, angry at God. Now I'm interrupting myself again. I've been nailing that one down for years. I could convert a Wiccan with that argument when I was 15. In fact, at that age, being so fucking smart that I felt like I could just run programs as humans while running multiple songs at different rhythms in my head just to keep my brain occupied. Well, it's the reason I wanted to start fucking drinking and doing drugs, to make myself stupid. I intentionally tried to kill my own fucking brain. But I still managed to be the only one smart enough to see that Russia was behind all, and I mean all, of the far left and far right movements in this country. Wanna know why? Wanna know how I know that? Because I just know how fucking people work. I'm the next best thing to a fucking doctor if you got a medical problem. But, you know, I highly recommend you see a doctor. I might be able to help you with diet and exercise solutions. But, you know, I dare not take away from the extensive achievements of mankind. And I've become the medical profession. I simply wish that they would take it to the next level by seeing that evolution is the result of a creator. But I'm not sitting there agreeing with ancient age theory or six-day creation either way, paper or plastic. You can easily have both, depending on the definition of what the word is. But like I was saying earlier, while an atheist will go and make fun of somebody for not being able to spell something. This is something that occurs over and over again in life, and it's just called being a fucking dildo, okay? It's called being a douchebag, alright? Guess what? Everybody knows a thing that somebody else doesn't know. You can't spell this word. Well, guess what, motherfucker? You can't spell this word. Generally speaking, those things are designated in masculine and feminine aspects, and here's what I mean by that. You see, person out in the country, whether Republican or Democrat, they might not know much about a particular fucking spelling of a word that they never use. But there's a lot of shit that they know people in the city don't have the first fucking clue about. And it's not about who's superior. That's fucking nonsense. That has never, ever been how any society ever thought until we had Soviet influence on our mass communications. And if you want to see how far it goes back, all you got to do is ask yourself how long they've been calling it media. Because it used to be people in the country appreciated the people in the city for doing what they do. And taking compassion on the people who are stuck in fucking shitty areas that are basically just meant to let people survive. Subsidized housing projects and shit like that. And that used to be something that the country people felt bad for the city people about. We didn't fucking judge them for it. They didn't judge me. I'm not either party. I happen to live in the country now. I've been growing up most of my life in the city. Well, and both really. I don't know, fucking that. You can't count me as either or. You can't count me as shit either way on any subject, really. That's just because I'm older and wiser than all of you. And, you know, city folk used to help in the church. City folk used to be a powerful intellectual asset to Christianity. Helping people remember the difference between old and new covenants. Helping them remember that Christ was a Christ of compassion. Told us to take care of the sick, feed the hungry, help the helpless. And that was the natural state of our society. And there isn't one fucking political movement that you've ever heard of. While you might think they were indigenous, while you might think they were quote-unquote grassroots, not one going back to the Ku Klux Klan has ever been unassociated with Russia. Now, whether through brainwashing or through ripple effect, there have, since the 80s, been plenty of people, not just marginals of society, just zombified masses, that can't even tell up from down. And they repeat these objectives of division. They hold these same sentiments as if they were genuine, because to them they become genuine. But every single one of these people, there's just such a traceable, easy pattern that can be followed. Get me with 5 good fucking programmers. Have it in a week. Whether it's through direct family generational deployment, whether it's a faked identity, whether it's an indigenous herd of a false shepherd, there have been more influences promoted conspiratorially, cross-promoted through signaling, the very signaling that these same fucking people have provided enough propaganda to just brainwash most people into thinking that some sort of sick American society is behind it. And again, some are just the generation down. Some are just the brainwashed zombie. But they still know how to signal each other. They still know the dog whistling. Whether it's far left or far right. Whether it's the Klan or the fucking Weather Underground. Whether it's evangelicals or Hollywood Satanists. They're both Satanists. So, Mr. Conway, Remember my friend Alan Potts that I talked about? LaGrange, Texas. Met him in Houston. Knew him from Houston. His family was from LaGrange. Well, in genetics and demeanor, and in, like just the way he looked and his background, the way he acted, the way his outbursts were formed through emotional expression of things that were formulated to sound cool and also happen to be corrupting of those around them. People like Alex Jones and a lot of the frog-necked people you see supporting him, and their very racist attitude and their very hypocritical stance on things. The way they both claim to hate Jews, yet they don't know how it sounds to say that while saying they're an Old Testament Christian. It's like fucking, an oxymoron. Like Army intelligence. That's Old Testament Christian. You see, alright, where's the fucking webcam? There we go. This is called a Bible. And here is the New Testament. It starts at the book of Matthew. You can find it pretty easily because it has those red words. And Jesus, yeah, that guy, he's in there. Okay? This whole other part thing, that Old Testament, no Jesus. No Jesus. Jesus? No Jesus. Christian? Jew. Jew want to be Christian? Be a New Testament Christian, because that's where Jesus was. Huh? Now again, I only say this to point out the just utter hilarious irony of that just dumbfounding fucking hypocrisy that is exhibited by people who don't like Jews, as if Jews describes one fucking group of people, for starters. The word was Hebrews, and it's many tribes, and there's they were taken into captivity, and now there's we just only know about the one, so now we call all of them Jews. Okay. So it's not even about that. It's about the fact that these people claim to hate them because they're Christians. And to show how much Christian they are, they're going to say, fuck you, Jesus. We're going to do what the people that we hate because they killed you said to do. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, actual pain in my fucking skull. Oh, God, ow. I really tried to think the way they do. Oh, it hurts. Oh, it hurts. Remind me not to do that again. Shit. I need to rename that. Yeah. Alright, so anyway. So now back to atheists. See, I just wanted to keep it in balance. I didn't want to beat up on atheists all at once. You don't even know how to use Twitter. Well, you don't know how to fucking farm, you know? It's not as easy as just planting shit in dirt, dumbass. So, I don't mean to make light of this. This is a complex and profound philosophical subject. And I do want to make sure I get it right. And I am feeling very fatigued at the moment. So just bear with me as I meander about for a bit. And I will do my best to call attention to the point at which I am satisfied with my personal expression of the idea that I am trying to convey. Because it's advanced concepts like these that I have been trying to actually invent a neural interface since I was probably 8 years old. Most things that I've bothered working on or trying to invent, I've or forgotten that I was trying to invent because somebody eventually came out with them. I conceived of when I was 8 years old, because that was the year that they were doing the invention thing in school, right? And I was going to a magnets school at the time, which was a special education funded public school that combined resources to serve exclusively deaf kids, Down syndrome kids, and the mainstay of the student body, which was all of the extremely gifted kids from the entire Houston area. But I like the cause of it all, so I like to mention the deaf kids and the Down syndrome kids first, because I think it was a really good a good influence on me, a good balancing factor, considering that I would be later caught up with a bunch of little skinhead shits. To have been to that school where we learned like sign language so we could communicate with the deaf kids, and we learned like basically not to judge people with Down syndrome and people who are slow, and had some really good teachers that taught me early on that, yeah, it is true what the founders of this country said, that all men are created equal. And we do have certain inalienable rights as well as responsibilities. And just because somebody's different from you, or believes different from you, or looks different from you, doesn't give them any less right. And just because you look different from them doesn't give you any less responsibility. It fucking breaks my heart what's going on today. So, now for the jugular. When an atheist justifies their worldview, they do so usually very early on in their life, in their formative years, when they learn about tragedy, disease, natural disaster, and Republicans. Sorry, I caught myself off guard with that one. Didn't really mean to be funny, but that's funny. They really are a problem. Now the thing is, the if-then statements that then begin to form their worldview when exposed to these topics, these realities, proceed as follows. These are just typical examples, and results may vary. If God exists, why would he allow this to happen? If God exists, why would he allow those people to suffer? And it overlaps into personal life. If God exists, why wouldn't he let me do that? I am a good person. Now, these ideas, they are reflected in Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 25, I believe. The Picard is being worshipped by the Proto-Vulcans. But an atheist comes to a different conclusion. The problem being, both conclusions are drawn from the same flawed line of logic. That such things are God's fault to begin with, or God somehow caused them, or that God somehow would do things differently because you did this or that. When you associate the mechanism of reality, or when you associate the result of free will with God's intentions, you have already completely screwed up logically. This is especially in a metaphysical sense accounted for in Christianity, where God becomes human. And in ancient esoteric Christianity, and in ancient esoteric Hebraism, there are pre-incarnate aspects to Christ, as well as multiple incarnations, and if somebody wants to think about the greater physics of it for a change, instead of the rhetoric of it that people have come up with, if God is spending his time suffering as a human, and God has apparently created free will because, and God loves us, loves people, loves his creation, created it for that reason. Then isn't God basically giving up on being God in order for free will to exist? So when you see people looking up in the sky for God, observe whether or not they are morons in other ways before you, like a moron, make the mistake of trying to determine whether or not God exists based upon a moron's standards. If God existed, he would love us enough to come chill with us, right? So what the fuck are y'all looking at the clouds for? Wrong camera. There, that's better. It's already time for morning news. Anyways. Try not to get too distracted. So then, from the formulation of a worldview that is based on the false perception of unfairness, because they did not understand Christianity or even Judean mysticism or Hebraic mysticism on an esoteric level, and never got the idea that, wait, God loves us, so he created the universe and then stopped being God, basically. Kinda, yeah. At least to the extent required that free will could be a real thing. Now, you know, shit happens, but that's not today's story. And let's just say that for the most part, I'm trying to explain to you a world that has ended already. And the fact that people are still refusing to wake up is a little frustrating and infuriating, but yeah, these rules that I describe, these concepts of basic spirituality, they don't technically have to apply anymore. And that's why it's so very crucial that everyone wake up. And that's also why it's so very crucial to the Kremlin that they stop me. Apparently they don't understand that I really like Star Trek. What the fuck are you kids doing? First of all, my Russian comrades, you're violating the Prime Directive, wouldn't you say? How would it have been if you had done the opposite of what you did? What a great world we could have built together. You fucking morons. Instead, you took people with good intentions and just made sure they lost them. All because of what? Because it pleases the Picard, the Putin. O for national? No. O for the good of the... No. No. It's all for the Picard. You're doing it all for the Putin. And you can take that Putin and stick it up your... Yeah. Stick it up your... Yeah. I still assume I have an audience of trolls. I still assume that they watch. Because, they certainly get excited when I start getting people retweeting. I had multiple devices starting to do weird fucking flickery shit, and I just turned everything off in the house. All because Rick Wilson retweeted me. I like that shit. Anyways, as I was saying, and yeah, I'm looking at the fucking TV that's reflected in the fish tank. Just staring at nothing. The pattern of anger, although, you know, understandably so, you know, it's like they're making all the wrong decisions for the right reasons. That's why I always that's why I vote Democrat. You know, it's why I side with the fucking atheist, and I enjoy the company of the atheist more than I generally enjoy the company of a fucking religious person. Oh my god. Like, I'll watch Bill Maher before I'll watch fucking Fox News. That's for goddamn sure. You know? Well, they go from there to further justifying their lack of belief in God through anger at the results of his seeming followers, even though from the slightest intellectual standpoint, from just the most basic, intellectually honest point of view, those people are hypocrites and the exact opposite of what Christ said people should be. Or, for instance, Muhammad in his later years said people should be, etc. You know? In fact, when it comes down to the difference between Islamist Christians and, fundamentalist Christians and fundamentalist Islamists is very little. And the only actual difference between Islam and Christianity is that Muhammad was a bloody murdering conqueror. And then he kind of got philosophical. Okay. And, you know, whether or not it's plagiarism, there are people who follow the philosophical part. And, you know, look at the conquesting part the same way and with the same distance, although inaccurate, as Christians should look at the Old Testament and some of the, the very bloody and conquestory type things that were done there. But an atheist takes straw man arguments against Christianity. Things that are not logical, and uses them to form a viewpoint on their very existence as a sentient being. To be defined on that crucial of a level by falsehood in a way that should be so obvious, and in a way that comes through a pattern that is so clearly assisted by our enemies, that I think it is more than proof that demons exist, that demons are what blind people into becoming atheists, and that atheists deep down are atheists because they feel hurt by God as a concept, and so they never, not one point in their lives, allowed themselves to logically grasp the concept of it. So, Conway, did I make my case? I think I made the case that I meant to make. I think I had like a couple more examples that I left out, but I think I made the case. Yeah. Now, proving God's existence, that's not as difficult as it sounds. That being said, the atheist has proceeded in life as though it is a given impossibility that God's existence could ever be proven to them through miracle, through statistical, unlikely, but meaningful happenings of fate, or even through intellectual exercise. They have precluded this from ever being even something they're willing to hear, because, first of all, they didn't understand Christianity on an esoteric level, so they blamed God for the pain and suffering that was caused by the world. Okay? It's not God's fault. This is the way shit has to be for us to have free will. And if you've ever watched any sort of sci-fi show where they simulate reality in a way that is too perfect, and see how that does not work, you should have had the wake-up call at that point. And that is just further proof of the blindness that I'm talking about. Something within your intellectual capability, something within your perceptual capability and within your experience, not only just on a basic social level, but on a reflective level, because of the experience that Trekkies have, that Stargate fans have, etc. There's always that episode, right? And there's always a lot more episodes that have a lot more evidence of the magnificence and unlikelihood of life. Like, for instance, when it comes down to just creation. If I can prove that there's a creator, if I can prove that there is intelligence behind the design of the earth itself, whether flat or round, isn't that proof of God? Well, here's a way to prove that in a completely detached and scientific manner. Get an aquarium. Oh yeah. Is it just that easy, folks? To prove that God exists? Get a fucking aquarium? Yeah. Get an aquarium. See what it takes to keep the ocean alive. Then, come up with a statistical likelihood of that occurring at random as the result of an explosion. Please do so. I would love to see the math on that. But, having done the guesstimate on that already, I can tell you that it is negative 10 to the 73rd power, basically. That's the likelihood of that occurring. And, well, in a detached scientific manner, one must consider these things according to scientific standards. And the scientific standard for mathematical impossibility is 10 to the negative 35th. Isn't it? Yeah, it is. So, negative 35th, negative 73rd. Orangutan, Kardashian. Mic drop? Yep, that bitch getting blown away by the fucking rain. There go her umbrella, all inside out and shit. Okay. So is the yeah the answer? Wait. Did I make my fucking point yet? What the hell was my point? Poor Conway. Shouldn't have to be relying on him to be the one fucking person I can chat with. Jeez. In fucking 1995. In 1990 fuck. Okay? I still had Windows 3.1 in one of my fucking rooms, you know, like just upgrading to Windows 95. In Windows 95, in 1995, when Windows 95 fucking came out. Still using Windows 3.1 on AOL. Fucking AOL 2.0 for Windows 3.1 with networking. Oh, hot shit. Came in a fucking 3 1/4 floppy and everything. In fact, I think it came in 3 fucking 3 1/4 floppy. And you'd load all that shit on there, and you get your phone number, and they dial out. And you get on the internet. And you could just go fucking Christian fishermen. Just find fucking Christian people talking about fishing. You could just go search for, I don't know, whatever the fuck you wanted to. I don't even remember what the hell I was just looking for bitches, you know, like I was oh, hey, want a cyber? No, I actually spent a lot of time in like Wiccan and different little spiritual chat groups, because you know Wiccan girls are easy. I mean, no. I set that joke up like, you know. Anyways. That was deliberate. They don't care. Fucking doing, dog. You still awake, Conway? You're just waking up, huh? Yeah. Holy fuck. I gotta drive somewhere in a few hours. That could be painful. Now, before I let this go, without backing my claim as to the fundamental of the argument, the fundamental of the argument is that the logic used in the determination of whether or not people like this are fucking Christians, whether or not the way they act is in any way representative of God. Well, like I said, you look in the Bible. There's Jesus, there's no Jesus. Okay? So if you go and you look where Jesus is, he says things, and if you read those things, they kind of fucking explain. Let's see, is that? floor has a little monkey in the corner right there. Yeah, there it is. This is the Bible verse, or one of two places. It's in Matthew and in Luke, I believe. I don't think it's in Mark or John. It might be in Mark, but I don't think it's in John. I could be wrong. It could be in all fucking four of them for all I know. I'm not that computerized in my familiarity with how that's all been done. It all kind of blends together for me. But this, if you find it in any of the places that you find it, I know there's at least two. It's the perfect verse for a Democrat or a centrist to memorize. Namely a centrist, because we're trying to unite people here. And fucking American voters need to realize we need to vote for whoever is the most centrist. That's who you vote for. Who's the most centrist? Because A, they're going to bring the country together, and B, they're going to get shit done. People who are dividing, they got something to hide. They're fucking corrupt. I mean, this is no two ways about it. And this verse here can be used to drive right over their little fucking picnic that they're having, trying to bullshit the American people into thinking that Christianity is something that should stand for judging gay people. And whether or not you should be sitting there trying to build your earthly fortune like you can take it with you. Because it's no coincidence. And atheists need to be aware of this. It's no coincidence that all of this is happening in the exact way that it's happening. Just like it's no coincidence that they are both people who defy one word that Christ spoke, and the next word that Christ spoke, and the next word that Christ spoke while professing to be Christians. It's not as though they're in some slight error. No, they are in opposite order. They are being led in the same direction from God that you are allowing them to lead you. Now I say this, again, out of extreme love for the atheist, for having at least seen the fucking deplorability in the way these fucking maniacs have been fucking behaving lately. And by lately, I mean for like 20, 30 years now. Jeez. But there were supposed to be some intellectual Christians. And this is why I reached out to the conspiracy theorists. Okay? Just to explain myself on that front. Supposed to be some intellectual Christians. And they were supposed to keep the morons in line, basically. When people started doing one thing, they were supposed to stand up in church and be like, hey, nope, the Bible says this. Can't do that. And conspiracy theory, paranoia, false esotericism, the existence of a hidden truth, was designed to lure those very people away from organized religion, quote unquote. It was made to lure people like that away from the sheep that needed their guidance, or else they'd be consumed by wolves in sheep's clothing. And that's why I think my objective is pretty clear this entire time, from the inception of the Lost Begotten channel, and even back, as long as I've been a fucking presence on the internet, I have been arguing the same exact points from different perspectives and with different levels of awareness. But since 1995 on AOL in those fucking Wiccan chat rooms, I have argued that there is a Christianity that proves there is an agenda behind your hatred of Christianity. Because that Christianity is not the Christianity of the people you hate. Yet the evil that has infested those people is what's driving you away, and it's what's driving this world apart, no matter what belief structure it falls under. Greed, hatred, judgment, inequity. These are traits of evil that any spiritually clear mind in history has pointed out. And it has always been faith. It has always been holiness that has led people to something better. To realize that these ways of power are not the only ways of power, and that there is a power that is not of this world. And the reason why people know God gave it to them is because there has been points in history over and over again where God came and made himself known to the people through events that no one else could accomplish. Not predicting something that could happen, but causing something that seemed impossible. Some people have even gone so far as to say that Jesus was an atheist because he was so liberal, and that he only pretended to be. I can't even. In their attempt to just refuse to acknowledge the groundbreaking nature of what he was saying and to who he was saying it to. And yet, while there are a couple of little things you can desperately cling to because you hate fucking Christians so much, that Buddha said that were similar. First of all, no access has been given to any archaeological or other testing to any Buddhist scrolls in order to date them at all. At all. There is literally no Western record of Buddha's existence before 1300 years ago. Even then, it's very limited. So there may be stories of somebody who is very Christ-like in areas where the baby Jesus may or may not have went. But like I said, there's only very few quotes that overlap. And B, an actual esoteric insight into A, Christianity, Yohanism, B, Yohanism, and D, Gnosticism, C, wait, what am I on? D, fucking F. If you take into effect all the different belief structures that come into play, you see that it just isn't intellectually honest to dismiss it. Now you have varying stories in these faiths between a proto-Greek version of the star-crossed lovers to the reincarnation of Elijah and Moses. You have many different possibilities to account for other appearances of a Christ-like figure. And also, there's possibilities of a completely unaccounted for Christ-like figure named Emmanuel that happened just a few hundred years before the baby Jesus. And that would even be at the claimed time of Buddha. Again, talking to atheist here. Sorry about that. Had to take a little visit to Mount Winnehakaloogie. Because I do not tolerate phlegm. New Covenant. I mean, what? Was that racist? Was that an anti-Semitic joke that I just made? I don't think so. I was just kind of reaching for a punchline there. See, if you go back and actually read about what kind of guy Jesus was, it's really not the Buddha. Sure as hell ain't Trump. He's a lot like the real Picard. He's very rational, referential, well-spoken, although a bit random at times. Caring person who is willing to put himself into harm's way for both the greater good and the individual. And who tried to take every opportunity and teach whoever would listen about whatever was happening. He could have benefited from, say, a captain's log. Stardate 1731-1815. In that day, which shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house. Wait, no, excuse me, I fucked it up already. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house, let him come down and take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it. And whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. I tell you, in that night there shall be 2 men in one bed. The one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. 2 women shall be grinding together in the field. One shall be taken, and the other left. And that was the most horrible, lazy, halfway given up on fucking many sentences Jean-Luc Picard impression ever fucking recorded, and I apologize. But it wasn't too fucking far-fetched, was it? talking about a time very much like this day. You know, speaking in third person so I don't sound crazy is all well and good, but there's a reason why he might be back at a time like this. You see, there were hypocrites in that time, the same as there are now. And they were trying to divide the people amongst the reasonable and the overzealous, the same as they are now. And it was a sign of impending destruction, the same as it is now. A sign in the sense that, you know, like an owl took a shit on a snake and then an eagle picked it up or something, like, no. When you see the trail of a viper, you know that someone's about to get bit. There was an ancient enemy of Israel that sought the destruction of Rome and Israel. By turning them against each other. And when you actually look at what Christ was saying, not in this passage, but in many other passages, let me just check this one, because it's right there in the folder and I can pull it up easy. In many other passages, he's simply explaining to people these are liars. These are false Jews. These are false prophets. There's more going on than the little editorials can tell you. There's a lot that history has yet to uncover to put context to it. He was warning about people that didn't belong there. And he was warning about the way that those people were causing his people to act, not just towards each other, but to foreigners. And these are prophetic scriptures. These are 4 examples. But what I'm talking about is, the more common sayings of Christ. And you can actually identify, at least by habit, that these people were enslavers of children that considered like taking children in the worst way to be okay by the order in which lessons were given when taken in full context. And then another misused scripture, when taken out of context, is that human reproductive hormones are sinful. No. What I meant just now by the order of scripture, specifically what comes to mind for me, is a very important example of not only identifying who Christ is saying are the false Jews, but and what they're what they're up to, who they are perhaps through their habits. There I go, losing my train of thought again. Must have been something juicy. It felt like I was juicy. I was all sitting up and excited for it. Fuck! Getting frustrated with how tired I am. It's fucking 5 o'clock in the morning. I should be tired, but fuck. Just trying to form a positive sentence, damn it. I wish I had something just typing what I was saying. That would be brilliant. If I could just rig that up to where it would type what I was saying, so I could just look at what I was just saying, so I could pick up what the fuck I was saying. What the fuck was I just saying? That's all I need to know. This is what I get for having big old fucking lesson to teach. No notes. Anyways, get a cigarette. Almost got it. It's coming back. Let me get this. Keep reading that. That's just not what it's not the right stuff. Baby. Sorry. Jeez. So the specific 3 passages in order refer to like blessed are the children, blessed are the weak, and then it talks about if any man should have lust in his heart, better that he gouge out his eye. It's right after he's talking about the children. And I should find that and get a photocopy of it. It's probably going to be too hard to just, pull up unless I have it marked. Yeah, that's going to take way too long. Lots of good shit, though. I highly recommend Matthew chapter 6 through 11. Just 6 and 7. Really, if you just want to have a whole lot of moments about the way Republicans are behaving these days. Like, judge not, lest ye be judged. For with that judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. And behold, and why thou beholdest and while you see the plank that's in your the mote, excuse me, the mote's a splinter, right? Why does it say mote? Mote? Really? M-O-T-E? And why beholdest thou the splinter that is in your brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that's in your own? Ever think about that? These days? With Trumpists? And Hillary? 21:42. Is Mr. Conway's favorite verse. And Jesus said unto them, Did ye never read in the Scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected, the same is become the head of the corner? This is the Lord's doing, and is it marvelous in our eyes? Therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you, and given to a nation bringing forth the fruits thereof. And whosoever shall fall on this stone shall be broken. But on whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. Sounds like the mantle going to the Gentiles at that point. And, you know how Muhammad's conquering came first. The unwritten part of history is that Jesus' conquering came second. Anyways. But you got the Dark Ages, so you ain't worried about that. And you got a bunch of fancy writings from the 300s and 500s. They don't make a damn bit of sense, but yeah, okay. The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen, my fatlings are killed, and I have all things ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then he saith to his servants, The wedding is ready. But they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highlands, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highlands, into the highways, and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good. And the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came to see the guests, he saw there was a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he saith unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having on a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king unto the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness, where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. And that, dearies, is an incomplete story. Can't you feel it? Let's see if I can find where it cuts off and remember what it's supposed to say. Can you feel that, though? Right there where it cuts off, Conway? It's supposed to say something else, and then it just gets all petery. Oh. What the hell was that bug? So right at the end of 12, on 22, Matthew 22, 12. There's a verse missing. The 13th verse is missing. It goes to 13, but that's 14. Outer darkness. The final hell is referred to in the book of Jude. It's the end he was speechless, and in my style of writing, that would continue with a semicolon or a colon, and he was speechless for he did something or rather. So let's see what the something rather should be. So in this context, he would be speechless in relation to the lesson that the previous people failed to learn, or else this, would be kind of a useless passage. Boy, I'm tired. And he sent forth the servants to go to so they just kind of make by what this is really about is ignoring the warnings. It's basically, okay, look, shit has gotten so bad that fucking God's gonna come kick your asses, okay? Now let's come over here and be one with God again. I'm gonna kick your asses for him. God's gonna kick your asses, basically. So essentially, they don't believe. They don't believe in the importance of the marriage. See? These are people that are supposed to come to the wedding. These are, the citizens of that country, the people that are supposed to be protecting it. And 2 out of 3 don't give a fuck. And 1 out of 3 is doing more harm than good. Well, we saw that recently. And then, instead of the people that are supposed to be doing it, he goes and says, I'm going to gather up the people on the highways. I'm going to gather up the people all over. Fuck it. And that's kind of like you guys now, but back then, who was it? You see, the priests and the Pharisees and the hierarchical structure, you know, like the Catholic Church of the time, would have wanted Jesus to come and be like their thing, right? But at the same time, you can see that if God in a merely flesh body comes telling a bunch of religious assholes what to do and what to be thinking, they might get their panties in a bunch. So he'd be unable to rely on the establishment, especially considering that they had all become woefully hypocritical. So what did Jesus do? He got 12 disciples. Where? From Jerusalem, from Bethlehem, from the holy places? No. From here and there. And fishermen in the Sea of Galilee. Quite a rabble they must have been. But after the wedding was prepared, they had a feast. That's implied here. That's not meant to be written. The Last Supper. And this is a prophecy of that. Because one of them, and he was present at the time, would betray Christ because he never believed in him. Even though he technically was supposed to be there. And that's the full context of the story, the reason for it to be told. Was sort of a warning / summoning of the inevitable. And he saith unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless, for he was ashamed. For he had been bidden, and did not come, but had fled into the highlands when you sent your armies. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and foot and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. Makes a lot more sense then. Yeah. Much better in context. With the whole weeping and gnashing of teeth thing. I mean, geez, the guy just wasn't wearing a robe. Oh yeah. That's because he fucking snuck in. He was one of the guys who was supposed to have already been there. You see, Peter was Caiaphas. Caiaphas was the high priest. The high priest pretended to be a disciple for a time, and then betrayed Christ and became instrumental in his destruction. Why? Well, for the same thing a lot of preachers do what they do for. Money. Why and how is there a doubling of people and not an increase in number or a decrease in number? That's because there's also unaccounted for females. 2 of them. One of which I don't even think is even really mentioned in the New Testament. Anyways, thanks for making me read that. That was fun. That was unprompted. Look, Sean Conway just decided to get me to 21:42. So I read from there and was able to find something that didn't make sense, and was able to pretty clearly remember what it should have said. Which, you know, in the whole realm of self-doubt and constantly testing and verifying, it's a fascinating piece of data. So, Mr. Conway, would you do me a favor and tell me if I have left any subjects undiscussed so that I can go ahead and wrap them up and get some sleep, please? I'm under the impression that I'd already spoke about Judas as you were writing that or something. Well, anything in the last little bit? I guess I should have just been stylish and been like, and on that bombshell, it's time to end. No, You need anything, man? Anything on your mind? You want to vent about something? Do Irish people vent? Aye. Yeah. Boss is being an asshole. Has no cultural barriers. That's right there. Proof positive. We all have something in common. Hey, I was gonna make the joke, but I left it for you there. Yeah, Irish people vent. It's called whiskey. You racist bastard. Alright. Well, I'm just fucking going just way too slow for this possibly to be entertaining anymore, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Call it a broadcast. And put on some music for the outro again. So if you feel like listening to that, go ahead and stick around. But don't forget to click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching. And thanks for Mr. Sean Conway for hanging out and keeping me company. Peace. Wrong one again.
baby, down in my soul. You, baby, you can't take it no more. No, I know I'm walking out that door the way you treated me too many times before. Don't you know you love me, baby, too? Oh, you know I want you there, I wanna be right there with you. I know I gotta keep you by my side till the day I die. 'Cause baby, ecstasy is in my hand. Oh, when I'm holding yours in mine and walking in the sand. Oh, baby, you know it's fine. Oh, now you done and piss me off. You went and done something you shouldn't have done. Baby, I'm mad. I'm going on. Oh, I'm going on. Can't take it no more.